Well, how are you, by the way?
I'm really good. I really have been looking forward to come on here and actually meet you in person. I love everything you're doing online, every your classes, what you're sharing. So this was like I was looking forward to it, and I'm feeling really good today.
Awesome, thank you. I'm super excited that I get to actually like talk to you and meet you as well because I know, well, when I was living out in El Paso, I can't remember who it was that told me about you, or if I found you just like through like mutual friends or something. But I've been following just like your work and just everything that you're doing is amazing. So I'm really glad that I got the chance to talk to you today. So I really appreciate you coming and spending the time to talk to me and kind of like share your words with my viewers. So thank you for that.
No, you're welcome. And I find that this is a perfect time to hold this type of conversation because so many people are open right now to really begin to see what is out there that could possibly support me during so much time of change. So I find this like perfect.
Awesome. Cool. For any of the viewers that are tuning in, I have one of my clients, Diana, here with me as well, who's listening live. Um, for anyone who doesn't know much about me, I'm a personal trainer and Pilates instructor, and I like to say movement enthusiast because I really love just like working with the body and making sure it's in good form and like moving in a way that will prevent injuries, but also in a way where you can find joy with being in your body and moving comfortably with like less pain. So I also offer like my personal training programs and my group fitness classes, which I'm building up. So at least for this month, I have my mother's, I call it Mother's Month. So anyone who's a mom can have their first group fitness class with me for free. So I'd like to share that with everyone. But, you know, kind of just getting into the conversation, can you share a little bit about like what you do as a holistic practitioner and kind of just share what you do for other people?
Yes, of course, of course. Well, obviously, my name is Luciana Garcia, and I am an ordained Buddhist priest of the Mahashriya Buddhist tradition. And also, I have a background in what we call mind-body psychology. So, for the last 7 years, I've combined both of these things that I have learned to
Mm-hmm.
support other people on how to learn to take responsibility of their emotions and their mindset. So I use different tools to do this, but the goal at the end of the day is how can we all learn to take responsibility for what we feel and how we perceive the world, to have better relationships, to build the life we want to build, to build the businesses we want to build. So I always call what I teach a technique called emotional integration,
Mm-hmm.
the mindfulness of feeling, the mindfulness of emotions. So
Mm-hmm.
I use what I've learned in the more than 11 years studying Buddhism and different techniques of meditation and spirituality with what I've learned in psychology to bring it together. So, and I love it. I've had the opportunity and the honor of helping hundreds of people throughout the last 7 or 8 years since I really started doing this professionally. And my goal now is only to continue, to continue doing it.
Yeah, that's awesome. The like definitely people will really need that type of support and just like guidance through working with like all different types of emotional issues at this moment. Can you explain to the viewers kind of like what a typical session with you would be like?
Yeah, so I always share with people that there are two main services we could say that I offer when I support someone. One of them is, like I mentioned, emotional integration, where I guide you and teach you how you can learn to feel and observe your emotions in a conscious way. And what this means, we all feel emotions every single day. Sometimes, for example, even before coming to an interview like this, a little bit of fear or nerves come up. It's normal to feel emotion, but we just don't want to allow the emotion to come up and make decisions for us, react. So I teach you how to learn to observe it. Now, the other type of service that I offer is hypnotherapy, a little bit different, but I don't know if you've ever heard of hypnotherapy. Have you heard of it before?
Yeah. Well,
Yes. Okay. I always
Yes, I have too. Actually, I had a few sessions of hypnotherapy in the past.
good, because it's something that either a lot of people know, or for many people, all they've ever known of hypnosis or hypnotherapy is what we have seen on TV. So sometimes it's kind of like, what is that? Are you gonna make me bark or something? You know, like people
yeah.
that. And it's nothing like that. When you use hypnotherapy as a form of therapy, the goal is to use the power of your subconscious mind to support your mindset for any change you want to make. If you want to overcome maybe anxiety or depression or change a habit. But I tell people it's not like in the movies, nothing at all. You're aware throughout the whole session. It feels more like a very deep meditation. So just to answer your question, when you come, for example, with a session to a session with me,
Yeah.
if we're doing hypnotherapy, it's one of the things my clients love the most because of all the noise that goes on in the world. Sometimes the noise comes from inside, sometimes the noise comes from outside.
Yeah.
Hypnosis is like a moment to unplug. I always, of course, when I used to do it in person, one-on-one, I would always make the environment so comfortable with aromatherapy, with gentle music, so you can come and unplug. And I would just guide you into a very deep relaxation to focus on the goals that you want to set. During the first session, ideally, and also the first 15 minutes, we would talk about what it is that's going on, what changes you want to make in your life. And it's very, very soothing. Now, when we do emotional integration, of course, after all of the sessions of trying, or the session to try to understand your goals, it's different because you have to be very aware throughout the session. I guide you to close your eyes. I guide you to feel, different from just talking about what's going on. I guide you to feel the emotions that are there. So yes, but in both ways, the session, I always make it a point to be very gentle. So regardless of what we're working on, you can leave the session feeling good. Because sometimes when we talk about emotions, it feels like you may open Pandora's box and then the session's over and you're like, what do I do with this? But I try to make it in a way where always at the end of the session, we finish with something that is positive and that is supportive.
Yeah, I can only imagine the types of struggles that you would have to deal with working with all different types of people, because I can think of, like, some people would be very overwhelmed with their emotions, and then there's, on the flip side, people that will be almost like very stoic and like not know how to connect with their emotions and connect with just how they're feeling, because they've really just bottled up inside for so long. So, like, and just being able to how to like manage that, and really just like know how to almost just observe your emotions rather than let it take over you is definitely a skill that is very useful for people, especially nowadays, because everyone is, they're stuck at home and they have an entire life change for everyone. So, like, there's a lot of people who have lost their jobs, or having to switch from working at home and doing homeschooling, or having to close their own businesses. So a lot of like stress and anxiety that people are really feeling right now. So just really knowing how to deal with that is so vital, especially in today. And like, continuing on with all the other changes in life that everyone goes through. So what you're doing is really amazing. So from that questioning, I was wondering, what's the most common question or issue that you're asked about?
The most common, we could say, situation or symptom that people are going through that pushes them to reach out for support without a doubt is anxiety. Like, anxiety recently within the last, I would say 5 years, has become a very overwhelming thing for people. So that is one of the things where people reach out to me, because the anxiety has become so loud that it's like, I don't know what else to do. And I want to share with people that what I do is offer, like I said, people support and tools, because I am a big believer that each one of us individually holds the power to help ourselves be better. You know, I am not somebody that believes we should 100% depend on a person or a therapist to feel better. It's how can we learn the tools that we can apply to do good. So with this, I have a lot of people that even have decided, or they need to use medication to feel better, but they still want to use the medication as a tool and learn how can they cope with the anxiety. So I remember, I think it was in 2016, I think that was the year, I don't remember exactly, that Times Magazine declared the year of anxiety, because it was the first year where there was such a growth in prescription medication for anxiety, which just shows us how many of us experience it. And it's a topic so worth talking about, because we use one same word to describe a very different experience that we all experience uniquely. Some of us have very heavy physical symptoms of anxiety, where we feel our heart beating, we feel literally like we need to be moving, or our palms are sweating.
Yeah.
Then other of us feel the anxiety more emotional. It's like we feel this fear, something's gonna happen. We may even feel sadness tied to our anxiety. And many of us have a lot of mental symptoms of anxiety, meaning our mind is just thinking of everything that could go wrong. Yeah. And learning to talk about it helps us identify it, because sometimes you see someone like dealing with it very differently than you, and you're like, that person doesn't have anxiety, because when I have it, I can't leave the house. It's a very unique thing for everybody. But yeah, that for sure is the topic that I find most people reach out to me for support.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, it's really true. Just like how people deal with anxiety is so different, like from person to person. Like it, as far as what I guess like more recently discovered is how much anxiety can almost like embody itself in so much more physical symptoms than you realize. And you know, it can range from, you know, just having like the jitters to almost like a just like complete like mental and physical like shutdown. So you know, depending on like the range of how like severe the anxiety is. Yes. So it's definitely something that like people really have to learn how to manage, and not have to rely on like outside sources for that. So that's awesome. In terms of that, my next question is, like in this current situation, how do you think people feel about themselves or about other people during this time? Because I feel like, you know, depending on your living situation, some people are like really isolated because they live by themselves in like their studio apartment in New York, or the other people are living like really having to live with their entire family in such a small like confined space, and you know, you have to deal with other people. I like to kind of just bring up the conversation of like how do you think other people are feeling in this current state, and what are some ways that we can learn how to deal with that?
Yes, and I feel you kind of touched on it at the beginning, where because there is so much change, all of this is affecting us, all of us differently. But at the beginning, and these emotions are coming in differently for everybody at different times. But at the beginning, it was the worry more of the change was so fast. Sometimes, like you said, it affected our jobs or our finances or how we do our job, or the fact that the kids are at home. And, you know, I was talking to a client yesterday and she said, I always dreamed of working from home because I love being home. But now I realize that when I'm home, my time is not designated for work. So I'm working and then cooking and then working and then talking to my dad and then working and something. And she said, I don't feel I am as good at my job when I'm at home that when I'm at work. So what I have been noticing, and this is obviously from what I've observed, even what I have experienced, is that at the beginning, a lot of fear came up, a lot of anxiety. Some of us may still be there. But the thing is that because nobody teaches us how to deal with our emotions, we are genuinely all doing our best to cope. But that has taken the shape of many things. Sometimes to cope, we use food, we use entertainment, so we don't have to be thinking about what's going on in the world. And this with time can lead us to actually feel angry. So that is something I want to talk about. A lot of people have told me, no, Luciana, I'm not afraid. I'm angry. I'm irritated. Everybody at home is making me mad. Yeah. When you think about it, we are so sensitive right now to what's going on and even to our own emotions that anything that may happen around us can possibly trigger us. And I want to mention a thing about anger. Every time that we have experienced anger, and I'm going to ask this question to everybody watching, I want you to think about the last time that you got angry. For some of us, maybe it was recently, right? Or maybe a long time ago. Did you choose to get angry? Did you stop and say, you know what? I'm going to get angry right now. Sounds like a good idea. No, like we don't choose it. Before you know, like you're the last one to get the memo, right? Like you're angry already reacting. You're like, oh, maybe I shouldn't be, speaking that way. So what the point that I'm trying to make is anger is a reactive emotion. Sometimes people think like I have an anger issue, and I always explain anger is the symptom and the reaction of something. So the question is of what? And I always explain anger is like the explosion of a bomb that we have inside that is made out of disappointment. So if anybody watching is dealing with feeling irritated, with feeling angry, with feeling whatever emotion related to that, the thing that I say, and maybe this is something that what you do can support people, is the first thing that I say is express it in a healthy physical way, because anger needs to be moved. And the thing that I normally recommend is exercise and movement, what you share with us. But then instead of projecting it on others, the question is, what am I disappointed about? And always bringing it down to that question. Think about how many of us are disappointed for so many reasons right now. Maybe like everything we've mentioned, our finances changed, or the kids are home all day. We love them profoundly, but sometimes we need a break, right? Or many other things. And we're disappointed. It's like disappointment just means things are not the way I would prefer. So if we want to learn to manage anger, to be less reactive to the people around us in a time that nobody's choosing the situation, I would say take a moment and ask yourself, what am I disappointed about? And possibly whatever works for you, either sitting with it and breathing through it, writing it down, but really getting in touch with that. And you will notice that the way you react changes by really identifying that that is the main reason. So that was a good question.
That's amazing. That's awesome. Like we definitely have to learn how to, just experience things for like what they are and not necessarily blame other people for how we're feeling. So, and definitely having an outlet to express that in a good, like healthy way, whether it's through fitness or movement, or maybe it's like creating things through like art or like making music. I feel like those types of activities are really important for us to be able to deal with those emotions and have a way to really relieve them.
Yes, and I want to add something just to what you said. Remember that, like I mentioned before, when we feel disappointed, something is not the way we want to, and we feel like it's imposed onto us. That's why we're disappointed. Like, why did this happen? But what you mentioned right now, when you choose to move, when you choose to exercise your body, when you choose to create something, you empower yourself again, because it's your choice. Can you see? I didn't choose why all of this came up, or why it came up, but I can choose how I manage it or how I deal with it. And that is a form of re-empowering ourselves in taking care of our emotions and our life, pretty much. So yes.
I think with that, anger is definitely something that, excuse me, that we've been dealing with today. But I also kind of want to touch on feelings of fear, because you know, we're scared of like getting sick, or we're scared of like getting other people sick, or catching it ourselves, depending like what we're exposed to. So there's a lot of like emotions just from walking around in public and being around like other people. What are ways that we can overcome like thinking negatively around like other people?
Yes, and it's good to talk about the emotion of fear. When it comes to fear, the emotion of fear sits on top of like the general concept of uncertainty. I don't know what's going to happen, and fear is the emotion that comes and tells you, be careful. So it tends to paralyze us. It tends to try to push us to resolve a problem that may yet not be there, or that may. In this case right now, I always explain to people, when we're already in a situation, like let's say you're already out in public and you're feeling a lot of fear, at that moment, all you can do to get through the experience, I tell people, begin to truly connect with your breath. That is so important. Fear can tend to, and maybe some of you can relate, when we're afraid, we tighten our stomach muscles and we begin to breathe very shallow, which means we're not getting the oxygen in our body that we need. So our body begins to experience symptoms, maybe physical symptoms. Suddenly you're like, oh, am I feeling a little dizzy? Oh my God, am I gonna have a panic attack? All of that can be triggered by simply your breath. So that is very important. But the work on fear that I encourage people to do is to sit for a moment at home, to observe that emotion before you may possibly go out and with other people. And with fear is very similar with what I explained about anger. Fear is an emotion. I teach a process, like I said, called emotional integration, where I teach my students something that we call the 21 masks of the ego. So it's just a pretty name to use the ego to 21 different emotional reactions that we have, or different ways in how we react to the world.
Yeah.
Fear falls into a section that we called the denials. What I explain is that anytime that we feel fear, the fear comes as a denial, so we can stop and not look at deeper emotions. So for example, if I am feeling afraid of going out in public, I want to sit with that fear and feel it and ask myself, what is really the fear about? What other emotion? It may be an emotion of guilt. I begin to feel like I wouldn't ever want to get somebody sick. I wouldn't ever want to possibly make this whole situation worse. When it comes to fear of finances, it may be, for example, also the emotion of guilt. What if I'm not able to provide for my family? And when you recognize it, the deeper emotion, the fear begins to relax, and now you have the opportunity to work through that emotion. It may be the emotion of abandonment. It's an emotion of when we feel alone. If you think about it, when we're going through an illness, especially during this time in the way that everything's happening, it's being alone. Oh my God, what if I would get sick? Where would the people around me be? Or what if somebody that I love would get sick? So what I'm trying to get to is, if fear comes up, maybe I'm talking about too many things and you're like, whoa, I'm gonna forget this. But if fear comes up, take a moment, sit with it and ask it, what is the deeper emotion underneath the fear? Fear is trying to just protect me from feeling what else? And there's something that happens when we accept the emotion, where we begin to be more objective. So for example, if I sit with my fear and I work through the deeper emotions, I may be more objective to be responsible when I go out in public. Can you see? So imagine if I'm just afraid and almost having a panic attack, I may not be thinking clearly of how to protect myself and others. But when I take the time to step back, to care for my emotions, it's easier to be like, okay, I feel more secure. I feel like I am here for me during this time. Maybe I talk about it with somebody that I love. I feel better, so I can think more clearly. Now I'm gonna make sure I am very safe with what I do when I leave the house. So yeah, so it's a little bit of doing some work before and then being willing to take that responsibility at that moment.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you touched on earlier about like how fear like can be almost like felt in your stomach, like in your chest. Um, how would you kind of describe this whole like mind-body relationship?
Oh yes, this is such a good question. I explain to people how, because most of us just see ourselves like just our body. Like for example, I have a body. My name is Luciana. Some days I'm happy. Some days I'm sad. I don't know. Who knows how I'm gonna feel today? I always say like a leaf in the wind. Let's see where we will land. And that's it. That's how most people see themselves and how we are just taught to see ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
But I share with people I introduce them to the possibility of seeing yourself as more. So we have a physical body that we can physically feel that actually has energy running through it. Energy in the way it's what keeps it alive. I always explain like the body is just the mass, like my muscle, right? Well, why can I move it? Because I'm alive, which means it has vital energy in it. So that is the physical body. But then we have an emotional body. This is where we experience all of our emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have a mental body. So this is where sometimes a lot of people confuse it because they think the mind and emotions is one same thing. They're very interconnected, which is true, but it's like two different parts of us. So I explain to people, these three bodies, let's call them like that, like it's you, it's still just you, but you have a physical body, an emotional body, and a mental body. And the three of them require care. The thing is that nobody talks about this. And we are taught to take care of our physical body, which is extremely important. It's very important to take care of our physical body. It's our vehicle, our physical vehicle. But nobody teaches us to look at our emotions and our mind. And the way I explain it is that the emotions is like, let's say a fire, like a bonfire,
Mm-hmm.
beautiful fire. And the emotions would be the wood that's there that's keeping the fire going. All the thoughts that we have that sometimes are negative thoughts are like the smoke that's around. So a lot of people tell me, Luciana, I've been doing so much like mindset work and transforming how I think, but sometimes it comes back, like the anger comes back, and then I become reactive or I get jealous again. Like I've tried so hard to work on this. And what I explain is just changing our thoughts. It's like going like this to the smoke. You will temporarily make it go away.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't go to the root, which is the wood that's there, it will come back. So that's why we want to always do a holistic practice. Holistic means taking care of it all, the body, the mind, the emotions, and even if you're open to spirituality, the spirit, right? Some people are, some people aren't, and it's okay. But it's also connecting with the spirit in different ways. So to me, for example, when somebody tells me I am experiencing an emotion,
Mm-hmm.
the first thing that I tell them is if we don't take care of the emotion, it's very common that with time, the emotion could affect the physical body. You know, I am a believer that sometimes we may begin to have a lot of, let's say, headaches or a lot of stomach problems. And it may be related to an emotion. Sometimes the digestion and the stomach problems may be related to fear. You know, sometimes the headaches may come when we're trying to control something too much. Like, oh, I want things to be my way, and we put too much pressure on ourselves or others that we begin to have too many headaches.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not to judge ourselves ever. Our body's a beautiful tool that we want to learn to listen to. And not only to the physical things we need to do to care for it, but then look at how am I feeling. So to me, everything is interconnected.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to start taking care of one a little bit at a time, you know, never feeling overwhelmed, but what can I do today for each of these parts of me?
Yeah, because there's, I mean, I talked about like the the mind body practice in a more physical sense, where you use your mind as a way to intentionally activate certain parts of your body and to really be in control of like your body and its movement. So it's I feel like, I guess, like growing up, you think that like, oh, emotions are one thing, like your body is another thing, and like you don't really understand like how it's all you. Like we have like our one physical body, but our emotions are all like within there. So you can't like separate your emotions just because you can't see it there in front of you, you know.
Exactly.
So that's amazing. Diane had a great question that she sent in. She said, what to do when anxiety arises while you're driving, or like when it kind of just comes out of nowhere? Because anxiety, sometimes it'll start to creep up on you, and like where you can feel like it just like growing, but there are other times where it just really just like comes out of nowhere. What are some ways that you can deal with it when it's so unexpected?
Yes. And this is such a good question, because the reality is that for most people, anxiety does come up at very random moments. So I want you to see it this way. In this case, I want us to use anxiety, once again, also as an emotional reaction or symptom.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, anxiety in itself is not an emotion. So the thing is that we want to identify what are the emotions behind this, because sometimes we all have a pattern. Like we may have a trigger, even places, things, people that may be the trigger to our anxiety. And when we step aside once again, and observe it and look at it, we see there is a pattern. Like I only get anxious anytime that I may possibly be in physical danger, or I may feel like I may lose control, or I am alone. Sometimes people say, I'm totally good driving, but the moment I'm driving in the highway alone, I begin to feel very anxious. So there, what I would say to Diana would be to try to find, what other moments in your life does the anxiety come up, and what is the emotional connection with those moments? Because if, for example, if I would be working with a client that has this issue, what I would do is we need to identify what is at the core. The anxiety is coming up for random moments. And at that moment, I would say, breathe. Obviously, if you're driving and feeling very anxious, I would invite you to pull over, try to feel more calm. We never want to ever put our life in danger because of how we're feeling emotionally. If it's nothing like that, you feel overall okay, it would just be conscious breathing, like I said, so you don't tense your body more. But it usually, remember, anxiety has a lot to do with fear. It makes sense to feel fear sometimes while driving. If we've ever been in an accident before, there's many things. I would identify what is the emotion so we can work at the root with the cause, so we can prevent it from coming up in different moments.
Yeah.
So it's very a unique experience for each one, like a reason for each one of us.
Mm-hmm. And it's really interesting. Like you always want to kind of just go to the root of like where these emotions are arising. And you did point out certain triggers. So in my personal training program, I like to take a holistic perspective as well. So you don't just have like your workouts and you have your nutrition, like the energy that you're supplying for your body. You have to know how to manage that. But I also integrate kind of a mindset program into my program as well. So where we look at, learning how to eat mindfully. And just learning how to manage your eating mindfully in all situations. So what I do in my program is encourage my clients to have a notebook or have a diary and write out, like for the first like couple weeks of their program, the amount of food that they had, the type of food it was, the time of day, and also either like the location or the activity that they're doing, because certain certain locations, like say like sitting at my desk at 8 a.m. always makes me want to have a donut. Or, you know, even like if you're driving in certain areas, then like say you always take the same route and you always pass by like the McDonald's in the corner. There's certain things that trigger our minds to moving in certain directions. So I think it's really interesting that you talk about that, where we have to be aware of not just kind of be aware of where those triggers start to get a little closer to our root issues.
Yes. And if you think about it, this is across the board. I'm so glad that you mentioned it, because sometimes with emotions, people go like, but why do I have to do that work? Like, I'm not choosing to feel anxious. Like, why do I have to now take the time to do that? Sometimes for some people, it's easier to understand when it comes to the body, but it's across the board. And I am so glad you mentioned this, because there's no other way that you can change a pattern without looking at it. You know, even there's this saying that where you put your attention, that gives you information. Like the attention expands and you begin to receive information. So how could we know if somebody, you know, how could you support a client that doesn't give you the information of what they are eating or something like that? And this has happened to me a lot. You know, sometimes I've had clients that want to work on their mindset towards losing weight, and they begin to share like, no, I don't overeat at all. I eat super healthy. And then later you ask them to do this and it's like, oh, I have ice cream every day and I have this every day. But to them, it's like, no, I'm like, I eat super good. So bringing awareness to something, remember, it empowers us. Like, we don't want to see it as a, oh, I have to look at what I'm eating or how, you know, what I'm doing or how I'm feeling. It's, I want to be empowered. I choose to do it. Even changing the dialogue, you don't have to do anything. You can choose to do it. Because when you see your patterns, it's easier to transform them. It always starts there, just with awareness. So this is
I like that, you know, changing your mindset to do certain things will really it gives you just like more motivation to be able to do it. So instead of saying like, oh, I have to do this, I have to eat my vegetables, or I have to work out, you know. It's if you change your mindset to say like, you know, I get to do this, like I have this opportunity to make that choice, and feeling empowered, like it will really change your perspective in such a positive way that way. So with that, I would like to ask, what are kind of 3 practices that like anyone can implement in their daily lives to really improve their mental health?
Yes. Well, I'm going to give you 3 tips, and I want to kind of give you one of each, because I find it that even though we want to improve our mental health, and I know that you will agree 100%, we have to always consider the body. If we don't consider the body, because the body, from these 3 bodies that I explained to you, the physical body, emotional, and mental, if you think about it, the physical body, it's the densest one. It's the one you can touch, right? The emotions, you cannot grab them, but when you get angry, you feel it, you know they're there. And the thoughts, you cannot even like perceive them. They're so subtle, right? So we want to acknowledge them all. A simple thing when it comes to the body that I tell people, it's very simple. If you suffer from a lot of anxiety, if right now you are being triggered very easily, you're realizing, okay, since all of this started, my anxiety has been like 50% higher, be very aware of simple things like drinking water. If your body's not hydrated, that is at the foundation, the simplest thing that you could do for your body to be functioning well. Another thing is to be very aware of the amount of stimulants you are taking. So just very aware of, maybe you have always loved coffee. I'm a coffee lover and I have experienced anxiety in the past. So I know that doesn't always go well. It's to make a decision where I feel anxious all the time. And when I start feeling physically anxious, my mind starts going and thinking of like the worst case scenario, then begin to reduce the caffeine or any stimulant. So that is the basic, very foundational thing for the body. If I could add another one, I would say obviously movement. Moving your body will help also move some of that emotion. Now, when it comes to emotions, I always say, take a moment every day to sit with your emotions. And I want to remind people, yes, there's techniques. For example, I teach techniques, but everybody can do it even without a technique. So this is not an excuse of when I learn how to do it, I'll start. Every day, an emotional check-in, breathing, asking yourself, how do I feel? And letting the answer come without a filter. Maybe there's no reason for you to feel afraid today. You are safe, you are loving, maybe you have a work and you're super stable financially and everyone's healthy. But if there is fear, you allow it to come up and just be there with it. Like if it was a child that needed your attention and you just sit with your fear, and that is the basic practice that anybody can do. And if it comes to the mind, I would say to really be aware of what information you are consuming. There is so much right now around us where I've had so many people share with me recently, I was doing fine, I was feeling fine, and I started to watch the news and I started to be triggered by a lot of Facebook posts. And at the end of the day, if we are triggered, it's okay. We can learn to take responsibility for what we feel. But if you hold the power to not fill your mind with possible things that are just made out of fear or even uncertainty, why not do that? So take care of your body. Every day, take a moment to feel your emotions and decide, what information do I want to consume right now? What do I really need? And having that emotional check-in may make it clear for you. Maybe right now, all you need is to feel supported and good. So you don't even want to be watching like scary movies on Netflix right now, even though you love Halloween. You know what I mean? Like maybe that's not what you need right now. And it's okay. So, and all of those things, the beauty is that we all can do them. You know what I mean? We don't need anybody else to decide them for us. We can choose to do them.
That's awesome. I have a few questions from some other questions that I've collected from my friends who couldn't make it today. One of them was, what are some ways to overcome the stress and burden of not having a dedicated space for like a workplace to or place to work or study during these times?
Oh, that's a good question. I know right now, like you mentioned at the beginning, a lot of people are sharing spaces. So almost the whole house is like a shared space. Well, it has to go back to, at the end of the day, being clear with what you need and communication. This whole crisis is pushing us all outside of our comfort to also listen to ourselves and be willing to speak up for ourselves. So there is no way that magically, if you're sharing the house with 5 or 6 other people, let's say, that you are just magically gonna wake up and there's gonna be a space for you. Is not feeling defeated by it, not allowing the situation to bring you down to the point where you're like, I don't even want to do my work. Like, I don't care. There's no space. This sucks. You know, like just losing ourselves maybe in that anger that we talked about. It's empower yourself and make a choice. If the situation is not giving me a place that normally I would have, how can I create it? So that way, through that empowerment, it may require having a conversation with everybody and being like, hey, I have work to do. Can we try to set schedule times for the office or for when I can use, I don't know, the computer or the living room or whatever.
Yeah.
And really not being afraid of communicating it and trying your best to make it happen. I find that when somebody finds peace with, I need the space, I'm going to create it, and you're kind with how you communicate it, most people are willing to listen. It's like, oh, okay, we'll just stay out of there like during those hours, like no problem. It's more how we say it. You know, sometimes we get angry and we're like saying the same thing, but with the anger coming out and people feel like it's imposed on them and they're like, no, I need the office too. So being clear with where you're standing and not be afraid of communicating it in a peaceful, kind way for it to work. And it may sometimes require a couple of conversations, because like I said, not everybody's open all the time, but it's important. And I feel that at the end, most people understand that that is needed, because people need to still do their schoolwork or their work from home or whatever it is. So, and that's a good question.
Yeah. Like everyone's all just like living together during these times. So we have to learn learn how to work with each other instead of against each other. So definitely communication is very key to that. Another question that I got in was, what can be done to help people be more vulnerable in seeking help during these times? Because I know that not everyone wants to like put that burden on like someone else that and admit that they need help. But what are some ways to kind of overcome that, to really seek the help that they actually need?
Yes, this is such a good question because in general, like I mentioned to you earlier, nobody has taught us how to deal with our emotions or even with our thoughts. So like I said, we're all doing our best. But one thing that we have heard throughout, most of even our generation, our parents, our grandparents' generation, is that there has been a connection with feeling emotion is weakness. And people have connected that. So if I ask for help, if I say that I'm struggling, people are going to think I'm weak, So then we just suppress it and we don't talk about it. But I love that you use the word vulnerable, because that is where the confusion happened. Being vulnerable does not mean we are weak. Weakness to me, for example, is I know I am hurting and I'm not going to do anything to help myself. That is a form of weakness in a way where I am not showing up. But vulnerability is, I know I am hurting. I don't know how to deal with this. I don't even know what to do to feel better. I am willing to let myself be vulnerable, even through asking for help to strengthen myself. To me, vulnerability is the deepest form of strength that we can have. Because if I am vulnerable when I am affected emotionally, then no matter what comes my way, I will face it. Can you see? So then so many things in life we don't have control of. We cannot control other people. We cannot control how people react. But if I am willing to take responsibility of how I feel, it's easier for me to feel empowered. So the first thing would be transform. If there's any resistance in anybody watching this, you've been struggling, you need support, whatever way you may need the support. Know that in no way asking for help makes you weak. If you feel vulnerable through it, then you're tapping into that place of power. Allow it to happen. And one thing I want to say about reaching out for support and help is that know that sometimes getting help is a little bit of a journey. It's maybe you have experienced this with some of your clients, even finding a trainer, a fitness trainer. Sometimes you need to find someone that you connect to, someone that teaches you in the way that really touches you and helps you. It's the same with reaching out for emotional or mental health. There are many ways of getting help. There's things you can do on your own. There's traditional therapy. There's holistic therapy. And don't be afraid to see what works for you. Because sometimes I see people, they're feeling emotions, they're feeling vulnerable, and they take the leap. They reach out for help. Let's say they go to therapy, but they don't connect with their therapist, or it doesn't work for them, and then they shut down. And then they go, oh no, I tried it, I'm not gonna do that. There are many ways to help your emotions. So at the end of the day, I would say, take the leap, be willing to reach out. Yeah. To me right now, those are the people that inspire me the most. The people that are honest and raw with what they're going through, and we are willing to ask for support and help, because we all need it. I don't care who we are, we all.
Yes, we really do. Like that was amazing. I love that answer. It's like we shouldn't be afraid to like really just take the leap and go out there, because even though you came across someone that doesn't work in the style that you need, like doesn't mean that every other therapist or like every other person is going to treat you the same way. So it's definitely a leap of faith to really try to find that right person. But like once you find them, it would benefit you just so much, and allow you to live your life better.
Yeah.
I want to open up the floor to our viewers. I have Diana and Joey. Diana asked another question. She said, how can we help children transition going back to school or dealing with their own anxiety and fear? Because she has a 5-year-old son at home. So she was asking if there's any quick activities for kids.
Yes. Well, hi, Diana. It's so good to see you and have you here today.
Hi.
Yes, this is a really good question. I'm so glad that you asked it because the change that is happening in the world is truly something impactful for our children. I know for all of us. And, in reality, for a lot of us, our children are safe and healthy, but we yet don't know the emotional and mental impact all of this is having on them. Now, when it comes to children, there's kind of like a 2-layer thing that I tell parents to do, especially if the children are under 8 years old or even 12 years old. The best way that they learn about how to begin to even understand what they're feeling is through looking at their parents. So I always tell my clients is the way you as a parent handle the emotions, and if you as a parent open the conversation without expectations, maybe once a day, random moment, you just ask, how do you feel? Today, I've been feeling like this. Like, it's like almost like if you're just sharing with them randomly and you let it go. It begins to teach them, emotions, because they're so young. You couldn't teach them a technique or a concept because they'll get distracted. But they could pick up on simple emotions like, how have you been feeling today? Today, I have been feeling very happy, or I've been feeling a little uncertain, or whatever thing you may want to use. So you are teaching them that you share your emotions and they can share them too. That is one thing. There are simple, even meditation techniques that help the children begin to calm down. Right now, one thing that is happening is that a lot of the kids are on electronics a lot because we don't even take them outside because we can't. So it keeps them very in their mind. So one simple technique, especially for kids that are 5 years old or younger, is making I don't know if you've ever seen those meditation glitter bottles. If I find even the link for one, how you can make it at home, I'll send it to you guys. But it's to create one of those bottles where you put glitter and you put water, you seal it really well, and you teach the child that sometimes throughout the day, there's so much going on, and you shake the glitter bottle and then you set it down and you tell them, okay, for the next minute, let's see who wins. We're gonna just look at the glitter while it settles and breathe. And it begins to visually teaches them, what does it mean to settle? When you tell a child, settle down, they have no idea what you're saying. You could be speaking another language. So if you show them with the glitter, it was everywhere and it settled through breathing, you make the connection that with their breath, they can relax. So as simple as that, teaching them about breath, and as parents being the example. I always share how I have an 11-year-old daughter and how she has called me out when I want her to clean and I speak with a tone like, come on, get it clean. She's like, Mom, why are you using that tone? And what I've learned to tell her is I stop for a moment to acknowledge her question. I go, I'm feeling disappointed because I'm not caught up with the chores. And I accept it. And by her listening to that later, I hear her use the word. Instead of angry, she goes, I'm disappointed about this. So we teach our children by showing them. And this helps us as parents to also change our relationship with our emotions. Mm-hmm. But something fun to do is that glitter bottle. And it actually helps us too. Sometimes I use my daughters because it's just fun to have something visually to look at. Mm-hmm. So that is a really good question.
That's awesome. I was wondering if you can kind of share with the viewers what services you offer.
Yes. So I am very blessed right now that I can continue to offer a lot of my services online. Mm-hmm. To my own surprise, it has been incredibly the same. You know what I mean? Obviously, I have a lot of clients. I normally work in 4 or 5 session programs, meaning we cannot magically transform everything we're going through just in one session. I am very honest with my clients about what I'm doing is empowering you because I believe you can do it. I want to support you, but I want to teach you so you can keep practicing it every day. It's like emotional work, just like exercise. If you do it, there's a benefit. If you stop, it goes away. So it's the same. So I am offering online sessions based on hypnotherapy and emotional integration that I combined in a program of 4 sessions. So that is something that I'm doing now. And my little baby that I call it is my online program for women. So I offer an online program that opens 2 times a year. It will open soon in July, where it's a 5-month program where we go very deep into learning all of the practice of emotional integration, the 21 masks of the ego, how to create a daily practice of observing your emotions, and how to apply everything we learn in 4 important areas of our life, which is our finances, our relationship with our body, our relationship with others, and how to find purpose in life. So that is my baby. Yeah. I love that program and the positive effects it's having on people. But it's only for women and it starts in the summer. So that is what I'm doing right now. And I am offering a lot of meditation classes, donation-based. We actually are going to start a week of meditation on Monday. So if anybody wants to join us, I will be doing an initiation on the 5 elements, on some mantras of the 5 elements that we can use to really help our physical health, our mental health, and to help us have more energy. So it's going to be an hour of meditation for 5 days. And it's completely donation based where you can donate what you can. And that is all. So
that's amazing. I love just the work that you're doing. I have one other question coming in, but while that question is coming, I just want to kind of share a little bit about my program. So Diane knows this because she's going through the program right now. So basically it's a 12-week program to where, you really take this full 12 weeks to start to learn new movement patterns for your fitness, your nutrition, and your mindset. So I give a full workout for each day and have it all set out, as well as meeting with the clients anywhere from 1 to 2 times per week for virtual sessions. That way I can make sure that you're using the right form, that you're able to safely do the exercises, and also just give you a little more tips on how to customize those exercises for your body and your skill level. On top of that, I give guidance on nutrition and how to eat healthier and kind of how to arrange your eating habits and in a way that best supports your body and being able to fuel you with the energy that you need to be able to do your workouts. But along with the fitness and the nutrition aspect is the mindset aspect. So I always encourage my clients to do at least 10 minutes of self-care per day. And that self-care can be anything between meditating, journaling, or just intentionally taking those 10 minutes to do something that inspires you or that you enjoy doing, as well as offering support in my program as well. I have an accountability group that we meet up and we encourage each other through our progress, because everyone's going through kind of struggles just staying accountable on their own. So I like to provide my clients with a platform to be able to share each other's growths and struggles together. So that's my whole 12-week program. I'm super excited to be having the clients that I have, and I would love to just reach out to anyone who is really kind of just struggling to maintain their health and fitness at home. And everyone has different bodies and different their needs are all different. So being able to have someone to one, just like keep you accountable and also customize that to your needs is really important for you to be able to succeed within your program as well. So I'd love to share, I just wanted to share that about my program. And I have one more question, and it's a little bit lengthy, but this question will is from an anonymous viewer. He said that I have a brother who is suicidal, and I myself deal with frequent anxiety. And because of the situation that we are in, I'm constantly struggling. How can I care for my brother, but at the same time, cater for my mental needs? The more I try to care for him, the more I feel like I'm pushing the boundaries of my mental health. However, if I don't do anything, I feel like I feel like that I am not being a good brother to him. What can I do to balance my mental health as well as looking after my brother? Yes.
And thank you so much for that question. Well, number one, also for sharing about your program, but that's an important question to bring up because during this time, we want, especially because we've been talking about it with a lot of people at home, we're not the only ones that may possibly be struggling with something emotionally. And we may naturally feel the need to want to support others around us. Now, one thing that I do want to say when it comes to anybody being in that place where their mind is in that space of suicidal thoughts and having all of that, I always encourage people to reach out for professional help, because when we're struggling with suicidal thoughts, we are not seeing clearly. The emotion and the mind have been affected. It may be for many reasons. Sometimes it is because of a specific mental illness diagnosis, or for many, many things, or because of depression. But we want to always have somebody that can support us. That would be part of the advice that I will share, to make sure, if possible, and I know it's not always easy, but for both of you to have somebody that can help you emotionally and mentally have the support, have tools to get better, and keep the mind objective, like I said, because if not, it's very easy when one person goes into a dark space, and because we love them and want to help them, we kind of begin to go there with them. Now, one of the hardest things that has been, even in my personal journey, to accept is that we cannot save people. And that has been so difficult because I naturally have that feeling of saving. Even hearing the person that wrote this comment, I just want to go and be like, oh, I want to make it better for everybody. Mm-hmm. We don't hold that power 100%. The power that we hold 100% is how can we help us? I always say, if my mom is struggling and my dad is dealing with depression, I can try to be supportive. I can try to be there as much as I can. But if I'm not even in a good space mentally and emotionally, I'm not going to be able to help them. So there's a difference between helping somebody and trying to save somebody from their experience. In this specific case, we're talking about something critical because the person is experiencing suicidal thoughts. So I would encourage to reach out for professional help so the person has the help that they need. We never want anybody to harm themselves or others because of what we're going through emotionally. Now, when we take it back, if let's say that person is already receiving professional help, overall they are safe, or they're going to go and find professional help. Now going the attention to the person that asked the question, it's so important for you to take care of what you are going through. It's crucial, it's important, and it's an act of love towards your brother. If you yourself reach out for help and begin to look like, remember, we talked about anxiety. Of course, there may be anxiety and fear if we're dealing with a sibling or a family member that's going through something so dark, because there may be emotions sometimes of guilt. What else can I do, right? Even if we're not doing anything wrong, we feel like, could I be doing more? There may be emotions, like I said, of abandonment. Not that he's abandoning you or anything, but it may be the feeling of, I feel alone. I don't know how to do this. I'm trying my best and I still see him struggling. There's so many emotions there that, because like I said, nobody has taught us how to deal with them. We're just trying to do our best coping with them, and then the anxiety comes up. But I want to just tell the person that asked that question that you are incredibly brave by just simply bringing this up, because you don't even know that maybe somebody else watching this maybe needed to hear that. So we never know how even our personal journey can inspire somebody else. And like I said, I would say reach out for support, even if it's sometimes there's many even free resources out there that can support people that are struggling in any way with suicidal thoughts or tendencies, and with people struggling with anxiety and things like that. You are more than welcome to come to my meditation classes this week. Maybe, I don't know if that's something that you may be into, but what we're learning this week really helps us mentally to feel grounded in a moment where there's so much going on. So if that's helpful, you're more than welcome to come and be supported in that way. Okay.
Awesome. And just to kind of wrap up here, you talked about your meditation classes. Well, what are your other like upcoming events that you have going on?
So right now, the main big one is the meditation classes. And what I'm trying to do, I want to encourage anybody that maybe feels interested about anything that I'm talking about, to follow me on Facebook under The Emotional Mastery Coach. So The Emotional Mastery Coach, because what I'm trying to do is to share a lot of free classes, maybe weekly, doing a live where I do a class and I guide people through something, to offer those resources available to anybody. The big event is this upcoming week of meditation. I will be coming up with more meditation classes, but the biggest thing would be if anybody, especially any women out there, are truly looking forward to really get into working with their emotions in a deep way, I would encourage them to possibly enroll in my program. It's called the Emotional Mastery Experience. It's not just an online course with like just videos. It's a whole experience. So that's why I call it a program where in many, many ways, we will create a community and go very deep into doing a lot of healing and transformation for 5 months. And that's going to open up in July. I am amazed about the results that the women that are in the group right now are having. Like, I could have never expected that. And at the beginning, everybody thought, Luciana, you really want me to sign up for 5 months for something? Like, no, nope. And now they don't want it to end. They cannot believe at how, when you have weekly support, we have weekly coaching classes, it becomes normal to talk about emotions, and the changes begun to happen. And now they're telling me, no, it cannot end. Like, we need to keep going. And it's amazing to me. But those are the big things in the summer: the Emotional Mastery Experience, right now meditation classes, and just free resources on my Facebook page.
Awesome. I know. It's like, can we make this last a lifetime? You're going to have like lifetime memberships.
Yes, I was so surprised about that. And I myself am having a little heartbreak of possibly not seeing them, but at the same time excited about the new people that are coming in. So it's really good.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I want to thank you so much for really sharing with me all of your knowledge and sharing with the viewers like your advice and like anxiety. This is super helpful, and it was just such a joy to like get to speak to you and get to meet you finally. So thank you. I really appreciate that, and I appreciate our viewers tuning in. Thank you guys, and I hope all of you really enjoy the rest of your day. You know where to contact me for any other questions. Reach out to me on Facebook or Instagram or via email. And enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Luciana. It was amazing having you join me.
Thank you so much, and everybody have a beautiful day. Bye.
Bye.
You too. Bye.
Bye.